today we're taking a look at an absolutely ridiculous Hannover game I had. Not necessarily because of the damage, but I deplaned a CV in this one, and this game goes right down to the wire. I haven't had a game this close in a very, very long time. But first, let's get our best salvo over with. There we go, 50k into that Vermont. That was basically the one time this entire match that my guns decided to work. And now we're going to be struggling to do any sort of meaningful damage. But we are going to tank. And Hannover is a very difficult ship to kill if you're playing passively enough. I find myself YOLOing in, trying to use these secondaries, having a good time with that in the Hannover all the time. But honestly, if you play it like this and just try and control areas of the map with just an amazing tanking presence and, let's be honest, decent guns when they hit, it's a very difficult ship to take down. And we're going to be able to control this flank reasonably well. Notice there's just 2 of us here, and the enemy team has 4, potentially 5 ships, and there's a carrier on this flank as well. Yeah, so we're definitely giving our team a huge advantage, especially since the carrier is going to be focused on us the whole time. And that's really the only reason we're going to deplane him, is that we spent enough time that the carrier is just going to lose all his planes to our AA eventually. It's not going to be very quick, but we will deal with it eventually. At least we're angled, right? Like, that's the important thing here. I'm playing passive enough that the carrier isn't going to get any great angles on us here. If he was more patient, perhaps it would have gone a little bit better for him. Really, it does come down to how good you are in a carrier, if you're going to get deplaned or not. I will admit that up front. But it's pretty nice to see at the end of a match, or getting towards the end of a match, the carrier unable to spawn any full squads anymore. It's really, really nice. So locking down C here on this map is a little bit tricky. There's always the threat of the enemy team pushing through the 10 line. Usually I really enjoy this map actually on this 10 line where people tend to brawl it out. In this one that didn't really happen as much. Probably because the carriers were on this side, both sides. I don't blame the enemy team for not pushing in at all, since that's what we're doing as well. We're just kind of sitting here chilling, waiting for the game to come to us. And look at the scores, pretty even. We have more caps, but they have more points at the moment, and that's going to be the case for the next 9 or so minutes. And in starting this game partway through, I really played exactly like this for most of the early game, playing very passive, just waiting for anything to happen where I didn't have to make an aggressive play, because we can't. We just simply cannot be aggressive here in this scenario. We're just going to die very, very quickly. We'll get farmed out by the Des Moines. We'll end up taking a huge hit from torpedoes. More than likely, they do have a Paulo Emilio. Another reason we don't want to be bow in playing aggressive, at least if we don't have our hydro available. That's a very easy way to lose your ship very, very quickly, is just get YOLO'd around one of these corners by a Paulo. So we're just going to be very passive. And now that the enemy team has started to just give up on this flank and say, you know what, we're going to go for the B cap and try and assist our teammates at A, then it's our turn to rotate through a little bit as well. Notice the A gear here also playing pretty passive with me. All we're doing, we're just trying to lock down this area. The carrier is giving us some spotting, so we know generally what's in the area, and we want to help our team in the middle of the map now. Hannover is a very big, slow, clumsy ship, so anytime you want to reposition around the map, you really have to be taking into account what's surrounding you. Where are the enemy DDs, for example? We see the Paulo now actually in the B cap, so he rotated completely away from C. So that really gives me a lot of freedom to move around again. I'm not as worried about the torpedoes anymore. Try and do some ship damage on the Clausewitz as we roll over to help on B, and we don't really get much. As you can see, our damage hasn't really gone up much in the last few minutes. Hannover sometimes isn't the nicest ship to play, let's be honest. Broadside Nakamov, for example, made of citadels. It's just a very, very easy carrier to citadel. And what do we get? We actually end up with bounces. Yeah, bounces are good, right? About the same value as a citadel. Although, as we're going to see in a little bit here, he's starting to run out of planes, so he's not actually that much of a threat. Now notice, again, the points score here. We're very, very close when it comes to points, caps, and kills here. Games like this don't happen all the time, but when they do, it's always super intense, and every decision you make is going to impact the result of the game very tangibly. It's very easy to see after a game exactly how you could have won or lost a lot of these very, very close games. Enemy pops up in C cap. Who could that be? Well, we know the Paulo is probably not there, which means it could be the other DD. There's actually a Shimakaze that hasn't been spotted in a very, very long time, which is pretty terrifying. So we start to take a little bit more passive route. Also, with the little amount of damage, or zero amount of damage we're doing to the Clausewitz, we're just going to run away from him for the time being. Our ship is not really cooperating all that much. And we have one Hydro left. There's Torps coming from our left. Do I need to use it? I don't think so. The Schlieffen Torps will just pass by and not harm us. But there is a Shima, so I'm a little bit scared, although maybe in hindsight I should have saved this Hydro, but we're actually going to use it here. Fortunately, we do spot some torpedoes, which is nice, but in the late game, not having a Hydro on a pushing battleship, brawling battleship like this, can be very, very tricky. The carrier, as you can see, is always back for some more. But he's not getting nearly as much damage through. And now we're dealing with a near triple cap situation. The A cap, I think, is going to get flipped for us by our teammates, but we're definitely going to lose B here. And the enemy team is going to be up on points very quickly. So what do you do in these late game scenarios? These are really, really fun. I really enjoy these a lot. They don't happen all that often. Hannover dispersion again, being very, very good to us. You got to push somewhere, right? We have to do something. We can't just sit here and wait. We've been doing a lot of waiting, and this is what a lot of that early game waiting and not playing too aggressive allows us to do. It allows us to play late game scenarios where we're going to have the HP to actually push in and maybe win ourselves a game. So we'll need to consider that there's a Shimakaze around here, and that is pretty terrifying. So I'm probably going to just try and push towards the island in C. We don't really know where the DD is at, but we do have an Aegir that's going to be scouting quite a bit ahead of us, so that's not too big a deal. And all the while, I need to consider my teammates on the opposite flank. We're not going to be killing that Clausewitz anytime soon. Unlikely we spot the Shimakaze without the carrier's help. So we may as well help on the Des Moines in C-Cap. And maybe we get ourselves a decent salvo in here if dispersion cooperates as we're moving back towards the C-Cap. And sure enough, we actually end up landing a Citadel, which does, I think, help our team at least secure that Des Moines kill eventually. Now, I don't think mods are strictly necessary to have a really good experience in World of Warships, but in these very specific circumstances where the game is coming down to the wire here, it's very nice to have the score timer mod. That's going to be the time you see to the left and right of the cap zones at the top middle of the screen. Whatever team's number is bolded is going to win the game. That's what that means. So it's going to tell you the time, but whoever's is more bold, that is who's going to win, assuming nothing changes. No new caps get flipped, nobody dies, that kind of thing. So we're winning at the moment, but we're losing some ships. And now the enemy team is going to be winning at the end of things. So you want to be using that, and now another kill comes through. So now we're going to be winning. So it's so close right now that we just have to push. And you can know that based on intuition without this mod. But it is one that I wish they would put in the game because it is just so unbelievably useful for knowing if you do need to push or not. We're going to get this A cap or C cap here, which should help our team, although they're flipping A cap now. It's just so intense in these late game scenarios. It's hard to really describe, but this is really the fun part. And now that we've basically deplaned the Nakamov, you can see he's coming out with like 2 or 3 planes at most. It allows us to push in a lot easier. And this isn't going to happen every game, obviously. Very difficult for this to happen, but it helps so much. If we get some sort of AA changes that would allow us to have a little bit more control over that surface ship to plane engagement, I would love that. So that more situations could happen like this, where I feel like I've managed to deplane the carrier enough that I can push into the late game. Monty kills the cruiser. Now we're ahead again. But it's so close that I do feel like I need to push in still. I don't really think our team is going to live all that long in the A cap there. And as we're pushing, we don't have a Hydro. Wouldn't that be nice if we still had a Hydro here? So yeah, we're going to tank a ton of torpedoes. And honestly, we could have easily lost the game based on this very reckless push I make here at the end of the game. Even more torps coming through. Clausewitz plus Shimakaze. is a lot of torps, including even some Nakamov drops as well. Somehow we do manage to survive a little bit here, and Armonti and Z44 are hopefully going to live. I'm not too confident in that, and that's why I want to secure a couple more kills here. The Clausewitz is so low that I'm hoping that we're going to be able to take him out reasonably quickly and then secure ourselves a win. Since the scores are so close, any sort of kills here flip the score dramatically. Our Montana managed to kill the Paula, but I think he's also really low, so they're actually going to end up killing the Monty very soon as well. Shooting at the Clausewitz, we do overmatch him almost everywhere, but we get one overpen. So we're finally going to activate our secondary buff. That, of course, is the special gimmick of the Hannover. If you have enough accurate salvos, you get better DPM and range on your secondaries. And they're doing okay. I would have loved for them to kill this Clausewitz a little bit sooner. But hey, next salvo out of the main guns should do it, right? No, actually, we missed entirely. And this is a dispersion build Hannover. I don't know, man. Sometimes these battleships are pretty frustrating to play. But we're at least going to take them out here. Back turrets or our secondaries. And we just have to hope. We just have to hope that these are Clausewitz torps and they're only 6 kilometers. And he wasn't 6 kilometers away from us. Hopefully. And yes, we get incredibly lucky here. The egg gear does go down though. So if we had died, notice the Monty did end up dying in A, and we had died as well, maybe the enemy team would have come back and won this game. But very, very close down to the wire there. A huge number of kills right at the end. A lot of fun. Although sometimes I wish that we could have that more brawly kind of interaction at the end of these games or towards the beginning. And that's where I'd love to see Airship Escort back again. But I had to show you guys this one. Couldn't believe how many planes I actually killed, shot down in a Hannover. Managed to have a really tight game down to the 20-minute line as well. And did a reasonable job tanking. 3.5 mil, not too bad as well. But even though I think we played reasonably well, I really wish the meta at high tier was a little bit more engaging. We spent 20 minutes or so sniping in a Hannover, and while we did reasonably well, I would rather it be a little bit more close range stuff than that. So hopefully we can see Wargaming adjust the meta any way they can, changing maps, changing game modes, that kind of thing. I'd love to see it be a little bit more action-packed, and this is the build I was running. A little paranoid here, maybe. Don't know if this is necessarily the right build to take, but given how many carriers there are these days in the matchmaker, at least when I'm playing, nice to have. And as a Hannover or some of these top tier powerful battleships that are, let's be honest, really easy strike targets, I get a lot of focus, right, when I'm playing these ships. So taking these extra skills maybe has an impact, maybe not. We'll see here. As you can see, I was actually running aiming systems mod, so Hannover dispersion is pretty junk, as we saw most of the game. I don't know how that 50k salvo landed into that Vermont, given how the rest of our salvos were going, but that is the build. Somehow, I actually managed to deplan a carrier in a battleship. It's a miracle, and I actually had a pretty good time at the end of it. Games that go right down to the wire there are always the most fun for me, so hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.